Hello?
Hi, folks. This is Subhash here. We'll get started in the next few minutes. Folks, can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Folks, I apologize for the delay. We'll start in a minute or two. Thanks.
So we got it. budget was number 26 million. It was supposed to be 18 this year. We were getting 13, and the last second, 10 out of the 13 did not come out.
The city did really well this year, so it might go back discretionary.
It's an up and down, right? So it's an up and down. Like even in our, when we were there, right? It all depends. The project goes through loops, right? It's a time curve. There's development work, there's business analysis work, there's all this activity that comes up, right? You might have like when Subhash used to work for me, we used to have 5 business analysts who were reporting to me. Right? I was the lead, and Subhash was one of the 5. And one time it was me and Subhash left. So, right, because we're done with the requirement gathering, we're done with all the functional design, we're done with the development. Now there's testing, and testing only your senior guys remain, right? I don't need 5 business analysts to be running the whole program, right? So then you have to make that tough choice about, all right, who do we try? So he was a smart guy. He took the biggest module possible, so he made sure that he added his value. He wrote one FRD, 260 pages. All right. So the day you guys can write 260 pages, you have reached Subhash's level. All right. I scare everybody in my class by telling them about the accounts joint reporting FRD. Subhash didn't let me divide it either. I was telling him that let me give this area to that person who knows.
I'll tell you in detail what I did. Yeah. All right, folks. So let's get started. I apologize for the delay, folks, online. I know you have been waiting. So I think yesterday I think we spoke about the testing methods, the defect life cycle, and we also spoke about the different methods involved in the testing. And we said that we understand how important is testing as part of our process and how critical it is from a BA perspective to be familiar or to be well versed from the testing perspective, right? Any questions on whatever we spoke yesterday, be it defects, attributes of a defect, or testing methods, anything that you want to discuss right now? Any open questions? Folks on the phone?
Could you describe alpha and beta testing?
Regression testing basically is the testing, as I said. Once you have the product in place, once you have the testing in place, whatever changes that are being made, to the code, basically the thing is, the goal is to either, when you're changing code, there are 2 reasons why you would change the code. Either you want to make enhancements or you are fixing this. But in the process of doing this, you don't want to break the things which are already working, right? So the goal of regression testing is to identify all the areas of the application that could be impacted because of the change that are being made. Make sure that you identify all those scenarios and rigorously test. Now, regression testing can be done manually or by automation. It depends. It depends on how you want to do it. But as a business analyst, as I always said, you will be only responsible for manual testing, and I wouldn't worry about automation testing at all. I'm not going to teach you anything about automation because I don't know anything else. Okay, but yeah, probably you will be doing some coordination activities in terms of the defects identified by the testing team, and then bringing them to resolution. So I think that is the only thing you probably end up doing in the process of automation.
Basically, all these methods can be done manually and automated.
It depends on who you are. So, for instance, if you're talking about unit testing, unit testing is they have unit testing tools. Like one of the tools that I'm well versed with is NUnit. So developers actually use this NUnit testing tool for performing their unit testing.
Integration can be done manually or automation. Then sanity can be done manually or automatically. But normally sanity is, is always done manually, because sanity is you're preparing a checklist and you're testing the high level, critical features, right? Regression can be done manually or automation. UAT, again, all of them pretty much can be done manually or automation. But most likely the stress and load testing is logically is always automation. Unless until you want to test the page load, by having a timer set, with that exception, I think the stress or load testing is always automatic. I think somebody here has a question in the chat. Okay, could you please describe alpha and beta testing once again? So alpha and beta basically, first of all, when we spoke about the UAT testing, UAT stands for the user acceptance testing, right? So user acceptance testing is the final round of testing performed by the business users before the product is released to the market, right? So once the end users test it, they verify it, they approve it. Now before the product is launched to the customers, what happens is, depending on the type of the business, depending on the nature of the business, let us say if the business has around 1 million customers, right? And when they're launching a new product, they may not be comfortable launching this, because it's a new initiative, and they don't want to, bombard the entire set of clients, because we don't know how the feedback is going to be, right? I mean, the product has been tested within the organization, but we never know, there could be so many issues that need to be identified, or the users probably may not like it at all. So we want to know how exactly is the audience reaction by selecting certain set of users, okay, which you can call them as alpha users. So basically, out of the million customers they have, probably they'll randomly select around 100,000, right? And they publish this software and they request them to test it, and there'll be an operations team or whatever process they have. They'll try to interact with them and they try to get the feedback. Hold on, let me finish. And once the users report all the issues on the alpha as part of the alpha testing, then all those issues are fixed. Now the product is more stable, right? Now what may happen is they may extend the release to, let us say initially alpha release was 100,000, beta could be probably 500,000, 500,000, right? Then let them use it, let them test it again, identify all the observations, and fix all the issues reported. And also sometimes the user feedback is also captured as part of alpha and beta, right? When you log into a new application or new site, sometimes they ask for feedback, right? So all the feedback is also considered. And let's say that the users are not happy with one of the features, or one of the features is not working properly, if there are complaints, with respect to the responsiveness of the pages. So all the feedback is captured, it is fixed. The goal is to basically make the product more stable before it is actually launched to the entire world. Okay, and once the beta is done, everything is looking good, then they actually release to the entire set of audience. Make sense? So that's the reason we have alpha users, then beta users. So these are nothing but the users who are end users, a sample of the end users who the business is requesting for validation.
This alpha testing can it be done by a location also? Say suppose a bank has 100 branches, and they say that we will test this at the following 5 branches.
It's possible. For instance, if it is an internal application, let us say every bank has an internal servicing application, right? Now let us say if a bank is launching a new servicing application to, let us say, manage some check deposits, automate some check deposits, right? So before they launch it to the 1,000 internal users who are going to use it, they may pick and choose, select a set of branches, and and how are they going to do it? That is purely up to them, right? They select a set of branches. They select certain users, and then they make them responsible for using the application, get all the feedback, and again, this feedback can be tracked via email or some defect management tools, or some mechanisms with which the whole process is tracked and executed. And then, all the feedback is collected, all the issues are collected, they are fixed, taken care, before it is launched to the whole set of end users. Question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it also defined as how many
you mean is it defined how many people will be involved in alpha and beta testing?
No.
The number of users, yes. So as part of the requirements, one of the features that we'll also document is what number of users that will be using this application. The volume, that is the volume, yeah. I was not getting the term. Volume will also be captured as part of it.
Let's suppose it's a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you
Hold on one second. Sir, I have Ali here. He is my boss. So I think Ali, you can share your views about it. So,
I don't share my views on this. So at the end of the day, you have your clientele, right? Whoever you're designing the software for, right? You have an expected volume and an expected growth, which he will cover will be part of your requirements, right? So you have basically it all depends on the program also, right? So if you're doing an enhancement versus you're doing a fresh release, so whoever is there on the old application will get put it onto the new application, right? So if you have 5,000 users, you have 5,000 users. Now you have to decide out of the 5,000, hopefully people that you have a good relationship with, because the whole purpose of alpha testing and beta testing is to get feedback and to identify any issues, like Subhash said. So you want people that are willing to give you that feedback, right? So you want to pick your best relationships, your 10 clients, 20 clients, 30 clients, and you release this, then you only give them access to the application. Collect their feedback, collect the issues, fix them. Now you're ready for beta, like Subhash said. Again, the count definitely will go up, right? You did alpha with 50 people. Now you want to do beta with a bigger set of audience. This is all it is piloting. So by the time you do release it to your 5,000, you know, you don't see people with pitchforks and fire in their hands trying to burn your bank down, right? Because, you know, you're taking something away and you're giving something else. Last thing you want to do is they come back and say, oh, your old application was so much better. What are you going to do? Roll back? No. No. There's only one direction we move. Forward. Right?
Kind of like the iOS beta.
Absolutely. That's what exactly. So even when you see iOS going out with beta, they have X number of defects and the user set is small. And then you have the full out rollout of iOS 7, iOS 8. But iOS 8 has already been given to a certain amount of people, right? Through whatever it's not through the iOS. You can't get the iOS through the App Store. You have certain people that will download it and test it, and will complain to you, and you fix that. That's all it is. All right, but it can be set by the bank type, whatever. It just needs to be decided first. Who's going to be the set of alpha users? Who's going to be the set of beta users?
Why I asked, because I was looking in the case and the plus. So every 3 months we have software enhancement for this. So sometimes, like, you know, they get installed with the high volume. I work for them. So
they might not put it to you because the impact is too much.
No, they give it to us. Okay. Check, like, you know, say we have 1 day sale, which is like supposed to be the highest possible day. So they tell us, like, you know, to watch for the enhancement and report any problems. And then at the same time, they give us override, like code also, if we need to override, or if we need to, like, you know, like the recent case was, like, you know, when customers buy the car, now we have this chip system. So we now so they wanted to check it. You know, it is going in sync. Some places they had problems, so they could override manually. They did some that would be the like manually.
Just imagine you did that across all 800 tools today. So the headache that you would have to experience, use that headache. You say that.
Yeah. Now, like after listening to this alpha testing now at its correlate.
That's being able to correlate several things once you get it. Okay, so moving on to the next important topic is test planning. Now, as part of the testing, we learned about the defect management, the defect life cycle, and also the methods, right? So the most important thing, or most important deliverable or milestone as part of the testing is the software test plan, right? So when a project gets initiated, in the planning phase, the project manager is going to come up with a project plan, right? And based on the project plan, every team, so we have design, we have development, we have testing, right? So every team will have their own plan, right? So for example, if the technical architects are trying to design the architecture, right? So they should have a plan, right? Then the development team, they will have their own plan as of how they're going to accomplish the solution, the development solution. Then the testing team should also have a plan, right? Now remember, out of this, the whole budget, at least 20% of the whole budget in the SDLC is being spent on testing activities, right? So when the client is spending so much money on the testing activities, it makes sense that the testing team step up and basically show what they are going to deliver, right? Now it's just not that, we are going to test it and we are going to take care of it. That's not going to work. So what are they going to test? What are they going to test? And when are they going to start the testing? Who are involved in testing? All these are different aspects that need to be documented in detail, and that is included in the test plan, right? Now, a test plan, first of all, who documents the test? The test plan is documented by the testing lead. So there is a QA lead. Every QA department, every software department will have a lead who is responsible for documenting and defining this plan. All right. Now, for a QA lead to document this test plan, what information do you think would a QA lead need in order to document a test plan? Anybody? Anybody online? Let's give a chance to the people online.
They would need a lot of, they would need to know all the business requirements. They would also need to know all the functional requirements. They would also need to know, as the testing goes on, the budget, the timing. They need to anticipate what kind of defects you could actually have even before you start with the project. So, I mean, that's just from the top of my head.
Correct. I think you actually nailed it. So to start with, but if the testing team has to come up with a test plan, they have to understand the requirements, right? They need to know what are they going to test, right? And who is going to give those inputs? So that's the BA. The business analyst, as a business analyst, as soon as you finish documenting your business and functional requirements, so as soon as you finish documenting your business and functional requirements, you get the approvals, and you set up meetings with the technical architecture team, give them the overview, the walkthrough. Then you set up meetings with the development team, give them the overview, and also the testing team, because everybody is actually working on your requirements. So just imagine how critical your role is, right? So the testing team is going to look at the requirements, and you will be working closely with the testing lead and helping him understand what are the different features, what are the different functional aspects, what is the whole 9 yards from a requirements perspective. And you will, as a business analyst, you will not be involved in documenting test plans, but however, you will be, you'll play a very important role in helping them document this test plan, because all the inputs that you give are going to be, very critical for the testing lead to prepare the test plan. Okay, so to answer your question, a business analyst normally is not involved in documenting the test plan.
But can we ask to sign off on it? It puts you on the hook for the test plan, because at the end of the day, what are the test plans based on? The requirements. Right?
So,
the author of the requirements?
Right. So basically, what we are also saying is, you may be responsible as a business analyst. You may be responsible for reviewing the test plan and also sign off on the test plan, because the business or everybody wants to make sure that the testing team has covered all the aspects of the requirements from a testing standpoint of view.
That's basically like we can keep a testing plan and verify whether it has been covered properly with respect to requirements, gathering documents, user interface document, user interface definition document, and user interface document.
Okay. So first of all, test plan is high level. Okay. There are two things. One is test plan and test cases. I haven't talked about test cases. We'll get there in a minute. But test plan basically is going to identify the high level features. What is going to be tested. Anyway, once I get into it, I think I'll answer your question. So let's hold on. Okay. But as I said, right. So the business basically is looking for an update on what is the testing team going to do, and what are they going to deliver. So they have to show a plan which clearly indicates the end-to-end scenario of what they're going to do and how they're going to do, right? So as part of this process, the testing lead is going to prepare the test plan, and the testing lead is going to interact with and again, this test plan has to be in sync with the project plan. Because if the project plan is saying that, okay, the project is going to start in Jan and going to end in December, it will also say when is the testing going to start and when is the testing going to end, right? And of course, it will be reviewed with the testing team as well before the project plan is published. And when the testing lead is preparing his test plan, he has to make sure that his plan is in sync with the project plan, right? If the project plan, based on the project plan, if the testing should be supposed to start in June, the test plan should also say that it should start in June and end in November. So it should basically be in sync. All right? Now, as a business analyst, as I said, you will play a very important role in reviewing it, and you may also be responsible for signing off on the test plan as well. So the business will also be reviewing this, and they'll also be signing off on this test plan. So let's go ahead and take this is whatever I'm trying to show you is a sample, is a template of a test plan, okay? And I think we'll deep dive into this, and then we'll know more once we get it. Right? So the revision history, the whoever has documented it, the author, whatever they have changed, the distribution list, who are the recipients of this test plan, the business users, the subject matter experts, the development testing team, everybody, whoever is involved in the whole process.
Whatever company has it.
Every organization will have their own standard template. Remember, as I said, the moment you step into the organization, you probably will be asked to document a BRD or FRD or use case or test, whatever it is. The first question I would ask is there a template? Where am I documenting? Is there a standard template? Then I should be basically documenting it strictly based on the template. All right. So, and also you have to make sure that you are working on the, see, normally what happens is every year, depending on the industry, depending on the project or nature of the line of business that you are working, sometimes they also keep updating these templates every year. Okay. So I remember, I think one of the projects, when I had to document the FRD, so we went there and I finished the FRD, I got the approvals, and we have a system where all the approved documents are uploaded for audit purpose. So we finished, everybody forgot, the project went live and we were moving on to other activities. After 3 or 6 months, the audit team came back and they said, okay, this document, whoever documented this FRD, so they got hold of me and said, this is not the document you have to write. I said, I have the template, what's wrong? He said, no, this is the old template. For last year, we had a new template, revised for this year, so you have to document it in the recentmost template, not the old template. So what I had to do was I had to again get the new template, just copy paste and understand what the deviation is and make sure that, it is in sync. Because if the project, auditing doesn't go successfully, then it will basically trigger a red flag right from the bottom all the way to the senior most management.
This template is decided by the business or the company who's executing the purchase.
So every organization will have a project management quality control team. So there are experts who understand the process from a business perspective, and for every document, every milestone that has to be accomplished. So they come up with the standards, they define the standards, from end to end, and they make sure that every individual working in the project is following those standards.
The people don't have anything better to do than to review your document and point out what the hell is wrong. Like for example, if you need blank area, blank. Put NA, non-applicable. Inspection, no blank. We've been through audits where our manager at that time used to get 25 NCIs, non-compliance certificates. And March, I would come to March, here's the new template. I need you to convert it. By the way, I needed this yesterday, so make sure you give it to me by the end of the day today. March is like, she's looking at my face, she's like, what? I said, what do you want me to do? Then coming back tomorrow. Because it's not simply a copy paste, because the reason it's new, because there are sections in that one that are not in the old one. So it's not simply you can copy paste everything. You'll come up with sections that will be like, oh my lord, now what do I do for this one? And then luckily the template will tell you what needs to go in that section and what answers. Boss will be sitting till like 8, 9 o'clock in the night trying to complete that and just send it out to the morning.
So coming to the table of contents, yeah.
I had a quick question. I figured as much, like I think a test plan is the same as a BRD. It's a high-level document, and test cases would be something like FRD. But specifically for the test.
Let's not, hold on, wait. Let's not talk about test cases. There are a lot of, I did not talk about test cases, so let's not discuss about them. But you can talk about
you should think about the test plan as a testing strategy.
Yeah, test plan is like, a project has a project plan.
What is your strategy? What will you test? How will you test? How long will you test? What will be your entry criteria, exit criteria, all that crap.
So here, it's not. I wouldn't say this is like a BRD in requirement. This is basically just like a project has a project plan. A testing team also has a test plan.
Okay, right. I get that. My question was, I think you just said before you started explaining a test plan is that every software department has a lead who documents it and we are helping them. So are we as BA documenting this, or are we just helping them to document this? Is this my responsibility as a BA to do, or is this somebody else's responsibility? Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
I think you missed the point. So let me reiterate what I said. The QA plan or the test plan is documented by the QA lead. So he is responsible for documenting it and delivering it. However, as a business analyst, you will be helping them understand the requirements, and you will give all the inputs that they need to make this document successful. And also, you may be one of the approving authority for this document to review and sign off on this document. But you will not be responsible for documenting.
Okay, thank you.
Can you name the documentary to create a test plan?
That's what I'm trying to show you. Now, in order to create a test plan, as I said, they need the requirements. They need the BRD, FRD, all those aspects. Okay. All right. So here the table of contents, basically just like an index. Now this could be one of the interview questions also. What of the information is captured in a test plan? What information captured in a BRD, FRD? I think we spoke about that. Table of contents, right? So introduction, the test items, the features. Let's deep dive into this. Right. To start with the introduction, right? Introduction about the plan. So and as part of the introduction, you're going to define the objective, right? Objective basically as of what is the objective of the project, and what is the purpose of the testing, who is the resources involved, what is the strategy, right? What are the different type of strategies that you're going to follow in the process of implementing this testing process. And coming to the scope, right? What is the scope of testing, right? What are the different aspects that will be covered as part of the testing? And I'm going to talk about in-scope, out of scope for testing in a second. Reference material, right? So what are the different reference material that are required for you to document or to look while you're looking at this or implementing this test plan, especially the project authorization, the approval. Then the project plan, as I said, it has to be in sync with the actual project plan and the quality assurance plan, the configuration management, because the testing team would also need to configure, install the application, right? So the configuration plan, the policies, procedures, any and everything with respect to the industry standard. The definitions and acronyms, this is pretty standard for every document. Now coming to the actual meat of it, the test item. So what are the different test items that are included? Requirement specification. Obviously, you will be validating your requirement, right? The primary goal of testing is to validate your requirements. Then your design specification, all the different aspects, right? Because for installation, for a simple example, installation guide. So the testing team probably will receive an installation guide to install the product, right? They have to validate it as well, right? So all the aspects with respect to the defect removal process, verification, validation, any and everything is part of the process. The program modules, it's the different functional modules that we are going to test. For instance, in the internal database, we said that work with a client is one module. When we work with a client, we said there are a number of features. So you list out all those modules. Then the job control procedure. This is a little bit technical. Job control procedure basically is a automated process. Both user procedure and job control procedure, these are automated processes which are executed as part of testing. So for instance, let us say, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with these batch jobs and processes. A batch job is nothing but an automated process. Okay, an automated process which will fetch data from source. It could be anything. A process basically could be anything. Now here, batch job with respect to data refers to a process which automatically gets triggered and fetches the data from source and dumps the data into the destination. So for instance, everybody has credit cards, right? And when you make a transaction today, you make a purchase today, you will see the when you go online, you may not see the transaction on the same day. Probably it will kick off the next day, right? Do you know why it's happening? Because all the data that is captured by the system in the real time, in order to avoid the database to get in order to give better performance to the database, they don't upload the data in the real time into the database. So what happens is there are batch jobs which trigger like in the nights when the traffic is low, right? And they dump all the data from the data warehouse into the database. So that's why whatever transactions you made today, there are batch jobs which automatically kick off and they fetch the data and they actually associate into the database. Then you start seeing the data. So you have to also test those batch jobs as well. This is a little bit technical, don't worry about it, but this is only for your conceptual understanding. Right? So features to be tested, features not to be tested. What this means is the definition of what is in scope for testing and what is out of scope for testing. Right? Now, as part of the testing team has to be making it very clear what are the different aspects of the application that they're going to test, and also what are the features that they will not be tested. A simple example is, let's talk about the banking application. Right? Let us say we have a mobile funds transfer feature. Right? Mobile funds transfer feature is very secure. Now let us let us say, for instance, the testing is done remotely from a different country. Okay. Sometimes the clients may not want the testing, especially with respect to sensitive areas of the application, to be done offshore. Right? And they want sometimes, because of the sensitivity of the data and the features, they probably want these features to be tested only within the office and strictly within a room. Right? So what happens is when an offshore team is testing, they probably, out of the 100 features that they are going to test in the application, probably they are going to only test it around 80 features. Okay. Now, when they are preparing this test plan, they are going to make it very clear, saying that, okay, as part of this test plan, okay, as part of this testing, these are the 80 features that we are going to test, but just for your information, the remaining 20 features, these are the features that we are not going to test. And The reason why we are saying this is because whatever happens with these features, we are not liable. Right? So basically, it is nothing but setting the expectations and making sure that everybody is in sync with what is going to be tested and what is not going to be tested. Of course, there could be probably some other testing team working on site who will be having their own test plan and then who will be documenting this test plan and scenarios separately as well. Yeah.
Question was that batch testing. Are these points listed as to which will go for batch testing and which will not? Like, for example, for giving credit card, suppose I have a bank account, if I withdraw the amount from ATM, that immediately reflects. Whereas credit card statement, credit card transaction may show next day. So then those criteria are listed separately, that this will batch and this will not be batch.
That's a good question. So every batch will have a requirement. Every batch will have a trigger. Sometimes what happens is these jobs run once a day, twice a day, thrice a day, or even 4 times a day. So again, those requirements are predefined. Okay. So features not to be tested basically is all about out of scope of test. Okay. Now the approach. So approach is nothing but the method. Right? We discussed the methods of testing. Right? To start with component testing. What is component testing? Don't read. Everybody is reading. It's a unit test. The other word for unit testing is the component test. Component is nothing but the individual unit, right? Yeah. So that's the unit test. Right? So as soon as the implementation is done, each programmer, each technical associate will go and validate their own components that they have developed. I think that's what we discussed in detail the other day. Integration testing, we spoke about this. Conversion testing, if there is a data that they are trying to convert. This is a template and you will be seeing a lot of different things. But conversion testing, if you're trying to convert some data or migrate some data as part of the data migration, what is that you want to test? How are you going to test? So all that process is documented here. Job stream testing, as I just said, if you have bad jobs, how do we test the bad jobs? This is a little bit technical. Job stream testing, normally as a DA, you may not be involved in this aspect. Then the interface testing, the user interface, that we have discussed, the security, recovery, performance testing. We spoke about all this, right? Regression, acceptance, beta. Right? Okay, so finally it comes to the pass or fail criteria. Right? So pass or fail criteria is basically a process which defines a metric which says that, okay, at what point am I going to suspend the test? Right? So for instance, let us say the application, we have delivered the application to the testing team, and there are a couple of showstopper issues. Right? Now, does it mean that the whole testing has stopped? Let us say there are 10 showstopper issues, or 15 showstopper issues, or 1 showstopper issue. Does it mean the testing has stopped? They are not able to test? So there should be some predefined criteria which, or a justification which should be acceptable that, okay, the testing will not continue because there are so many blockers or showstopper issues which are hampering the testing process, and we cannot move forward because there are, let us simple example is the login. Right? So login, if the users are not able to log in, if the testing team is not able to log in, what are they going to test? Nothing. Right? So they should have a valid suspension criteria. So that criteria is also predetermined. Okay? The resumption criteria. So at what point am I going to resume my testing? I mean, should all the blockers be resolved? Should all the criticals be resolved? So all that is predefined based on the industry standards or the project standards. The approval criteria. So on what basis am I going to approve the testing? And on what basis am I going to approve and say that, okay, this product is good? Should it have 0 showstoppers? Should it have less than 10 critical issues? Should it have less than 50 medium? Should it have less than 100 cosmetic issues? Right? So there is an acceptance criteria that or standard which is predefined in every project. And again, this is based on the discussion between the testing team and the business. Now what happens is, once the testing team identifies all the defects, all the issues, they will have a meeting and say normally no application is defect free. So the testing team has identified maybe like around 1,000, out of which only 600 are fixed. Now we still have 400 defects to be fixed, and the production date has come by. Now can we push the production date? No. Now can we still push the application with all the defects? That is a decision made by the business and the testing team sitting together. They'll review all the open defects, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So all that is basically part of the approval criteria, and they decide whether they can go ahead and they can push this product, to the users. Yeah.
My question is, like, do products and projects ever fail, or what rate is it of failure? Of course. Right. So you can't assume that everything's going to be a success. No, it's the real world you're working on. Right.
So I think, not every project is success. I think even now, in spite of all the planning and execution and process, I would say at least 20 to 30% of the projects are still.
Also depends. What do you consider as a failure?
Yeah. So what do you mean by failure? What do you mean by failure is also, I think, another aspect.
That's the question that goes.
Correct. So for instance, let us say the project plan says that you should finish this project in 10 million, and you're not able to finish it. So it's a failure. It can also be a failure.
This criteria, right, has measured success or failure. In time, in budget, in resources allotted. The trifecta for program management, right? And then what is in between all three? So, right. Both get clear, this triangle gets clear.
We also talked about the project plan.
Yeah, sure. So basically the job of a project manager is to manage the budget, the time, and then the resources, right? And then that's why he comes up with the initial project plan, right? And he takes input from all the teams. And again, everything is based on your initial scope and vision, right? You haven't put together BRDs, you haven't put together FRDs, there's no design done yet. Project plan is happening as part of inception, kickoff, planning, right at the beginning, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to go to your project sponsor, whoever is giving the money, and say, hey, according to your scope and vision, I need 10 million to execute this. And it's not like 8 are going in his pocket. All right? So it all depends on that, right? And that's why even in estimations, you have an L0, L1, L2, L3. These are all different levels of estimation. L0, very high level estimate at the beginning of the project, right, during planning, inception. So that, by the time you do L0 and L3 is your delivered product, right? So you're done now. So now you go back and you say, okay, L0 was 10 million, L3 is 13 million, 30% delta. All depends on how good your team is and what you do and what is it. There will always be a delta. And by delta, it will always be up. Very rarely do you see it being down, right? So the thing is, like, between L0, which is inception, then L1 comes when you have finalized your requirements. So now you have a better understanding of what you're doing. L2 will come around the time that, development is complete, you're going into testing. And then L3 is the delivery. So there is usually about, between each one, we are expecting plus or minus 10%. That's why we say between L0 and L3, 30% delta is acceptable. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
At the time of inception, is it made clear to the that there may be variation between L0 and L3?
So if you are working in a program management, the reason why you're giving an L0 is because there will be a delta. That's why it's called an L0 estimate and not an L3.
Normally the businesses agree to that.
Of course, everything. That is why we're saying it's an L0 estimate and not a 3. Because L0 was with assumptions, right? With scope and vision assumptions. That's why it's an L0 estimate. L3, there's no assumptions. You deliver the product. It is what it is.
And you give approximate percentage variance.
It all depends on company to company, right? Some companies, they're expecting L0 to L3, 30%. Some will say L0 to L3, 10%. It depends on how big your project is too, right? And then also the time can change also, right? So always program manager's job is to manage the risk, which will impact time, money, and resources. And keeping the resources available is also a risk. Some people will quit in the middle for no reason. They got a better job offer, you know? So sustainability is also a big problem of the team, right? That doesn't impact your time, doesn't impact your resources because you have that money to give to someone else now, whoever you bring on board, but that did hit your time. Correct? It didn't impact your money, but impacted your time. So is that a failure? If I delivered it in the money, but took me longer, is that a failure? Depends, right? So there's a lot of questions that happen like this, right? That's like, you know, now I just told you today, right? My budget got cut. So my success criteria, instead of delivering this huge app, now I'm delivering small chunks of enhancements to other applications, right? So that's what it is. Project plan, again, during the inception, it's put together at a high level, and it takes into consideration all phases of the project. But again, it's an L0 estimate. So you're saying, you come to a person, the business analyst, okay, here is the scope, here is the vision. How long do you think it will take you to gather the requirements? Oh, 4 months. Okay, 4 months for requirement gathering and analysis. Design team, how long do you think you will take? Well, I would give me at least a month to 2 months to do the design. All right, you're up to 6 months, right? Next, development. Oh, probably high-level estimate, 8-9 months to a year. All right, so now you keep adding, right? Testing, same thing. These are all L0s, right? And that's how you come up with a high-level timeline of how long your project will take. And that's what Subhash was saying, that whoever is now the testing person coming up with this testing strategy will come with his time frame according to whatever he would have given an estimate on. IST team, take me 4 months. UAT team, another 4 months. Now the PM will decide, all right, my mark to market is in a year. If I simply go in series, this thing is going to 18 months. So I got to cut 6 months somewhere, right? So I might do some things in parallel. I'll start doing that, all part of project planning. But as business analyst, don't worry about it. That's not your headache. That's your PM's headache, right? All you got to do is tell him how long it will take you to do the requirements. And once you give, there's no getting back. You can't come back and say, I underestimated it. It won't take me 2 months. It'll take me 3 months. You'll say, well, you have weekends, right?
And the night.
Nights, weekends. You don't need to sleep. Sleep after you deliver the requirements, right? Happens, right? We always get to say, am I getting comped for working over the weekend?
Thanks, Ali.
All right, guys, I'm going to go attend to my own kids now. All right, nice meeting you all. Pay attention. It will help. The more you pay attention here, the easier it will be when you come to facing the real sector. There's nothing that he is teaching here that will not be asked. All right. So pay attention.
Thanks for sharing.
That's part and parcel of the thing, right? You don't care.
So if people online are still wondering who Ali is basically, you know, he's my manager. He's my ex-boss who was with Citi, and he has come here to, you know, talk to us and meet us. Folks on the line. This is okay.
Okay.
Solid. So let's move on to. Anybody have any questions on the line so far? Solid. So moving on to the responsibilities, resources, and I think let's go back to the test development, right? Okay. So as part of the testing, what are the milestones that the testing team is going to tell you, right? The test plan, the test scenarios, the defects, the whole 9 yards, right? And from a task perspective, what are the tasks in the place for the testing team? What are the different things that they're going to test? What are the tasks involved, right? And the responsibilities. Who are the individual resources? What are their responsibilities? What is the schedule? When are they going to start? When are they going to end the testing? The schedule of the testing. Environmental requirements. Environmental requirements again is broken down into hardware and software. Now, hardware basically is the infrastructure required for the testing team to start the testing. So, for instance, if I have to test an app, what hardware do I need? I probably need Android device, then iOS devices, and they have to have certain set of hardware requirements, some network infrastructure requirements, all that. Yeah, so they would need servers, they would need computers for testing. So whatever hardware they need as part of testing, and the software installation. So if they have to test a web application, right? They would need website, they would need the browser, right? Let us say it's a web application that has to be tested on Chrome or Firefox or Safari. You need all those browsers installed also, right? It's also a software installation, right? The plugins, everything. The security. From a security perspective, what testing will be done? Then tools, what are the different tools that will be used? If it is automation testing, what automation testing tool is being used? Then any requirements for applications. What are the risks and assumptions? Do they have any risks involved? Are there any assumptions involved? For instance, they may not test, they may not be able to test the application features in real time, some of the features. Like in the actual real time, they cannot test funds transfer, right? Funds transfer is always tested in the testing environment. You cannot basically have a client test this, right? So there are some features where you cannot test on the real time. There are risks involved because you are not able to test it in the real time, and the assumption is that it will go through well. No, how can you simulate a real-time funds transfer?
Real time.
Yeah, in the real time. Only the client has to do it, and there are issues, then you will know it. There's a lot of server configuration. They probably may simulate the same environment, but anything would go wrong in the production. Right. Right. If there is a change involved, what are the processes involved, and who are the users who are going to review and approve this plan. All that information is documented here in the approve. So the reason why I have given you this walkthrough is sometimes you will also be participating in the discussion, with respect to all this. However, you will not be documenting this plan though. It's always good to know, because as I said, right, you will be participating definitely in the testing too. Any questions on the test plan, folks?
And one test plan has been documented by the QA. I think the BA should review it, and
not only the BA, right? Whoever has to review, the project manager, the business, everybody will review it, and they have to approve it.
The BA reviews, we make sure that it syncs with the
project plan and the requirement. Correct. Correct.
Do they review it right away, or they take and say, okay, move it here, I'll test it, I'll check it tomorrow?
That depends on their availability.
How big the plan is.
Anybody online has questions on the test plan, folks?
I did have a question, and I think it's because I got myself confused. I'm sorry. This is not an L0 thing. This is just a high-level document that is done after the BRD and FRD has been approved, yes?
Correct.
Okay, so once it has been approved, then you can design this because you know what the business requirements are, you know what the functional requirements are. Okay.
That's correct. That's 100% right.
And these templates, once again, are provided from the business perspective, or do we design our own, or we can just download a pre-designed template?
Come again? What was the question?
These templates, once again, they are given to us from a business, or do we design our own?
Every organization will have a predefined set of templates, so the business will offer you all these templates.
Okay, but they can go back and say, hey, design your own because we don't have any?
That will not happen. Because see, at this point in the industry, every organization has their own predefined template, and I have been in this industry for the past 10 years at least, 10 plus years, and only if you are working with a startup company, with that exception, but I would say 99.9% of the time there are always templates.
And what if you go review the template and you go like, if there's a certain modification is suggested, it will optimize productivity. Can you suggest that?
Come again, what did you say?
If you suggest a modification which will optimize productivity, can you suggest that?
No, I would say don't do that, and that is not going to be acceptable, because the template normally is predefined by experts. And if you are recommending suggestions, I mean, again, I'm not saying that the template is perfect. That's not what I'm intending to say. The template basically is designed by a set of experts with so much research and analysis. I mean, they could have missed some concepts. The first part is, will you have time to really go ahead and give recommendations? That is one challenge. You will not have time to really deep dive and think. But again, you could give recommendations. But are they going to accept it, and are they going to update the template at an organization level? That is something which I'm not sure.
But as a BA, if you think that something needs to be...
I mean, you can basically whatever you think is right. You always have the freedom of speech. You can speak.
You want to follow that template. You can always add an appendix to that. Because this is what gives my mind.
But the template was too artistically too, right? Alpha, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's late.
No, see, the thing is, anything can be changed. Yeah. Nothing is late. But again, the thing is, right, when you are recommending changes at an organization level, these are the organization level templates.
Yeah, not to recommend change. You can always just add an appendix. Change my mind.
No, but what his question is, can I recommend if there is anything that needs to be added logically? Can I recommend? Yeah, you can. But is it going to be incorporated at the policy level? That I'm not sure. Okay.
The reason I asked that question is because when I was filling out one of the BRD documents, I did notice a couple of things there, and that's what I wanted to talk to. So I guess I'll call you right after the meeting to go over the document.
I strongly recommend all of you to kind of stick to the templates. Don't try to invent anything new. Just follow and also there are several organizations where every organization has a predefined standard and terminology that is used while documenting the business or functional requirements. What I'm teaching here is one standard, right? So once you get into the industry, before you start documenting a BRD or FRD, what I would do is I would look back into their repository and see what are the BRDs, what are the FRDs they have, how they have documented, understand the process and just go with the flow. Because what happens is if you give them better, even if you give them better, they may not like it, right? You probably may come up with a detailed low-level FRD. Sometimes they say, this is too low-level, we just want high-level. I mean, you don't be surprised. There are instances which happened like this. So I had some of my consultants who basically needed help with the FRD, and I helped them with the low-level. They go back to the manager. The manager says, "Oh, you know what? This is too much. We don't want this level of detail." And I said, "You know what? Whatever garbage they want, just dump it on this." That's all I said. Because we are giving them good quality, and they don't want it. So whatever they want, just make them happy. That's what I have to say.
For a new project, you probably have the old projects in archives.
There will be some SharePoint. SharePoint is nothing but a repository where all the documents are stored, or some content management system where all the documents are stored. And they will give access for those documents. So go ahead and deep dive into those documents and start doing the research and try to understand what exactly is happening, what is the acceptable format and standards. And follow that. Don't try to do anything. So
let's say even though we don't agree with the template, that you probably had a better template you worked with at a different institution, and when you come to this organization and you don't actually agree with the templates, but you still have to work with it.
But you can always recommend. See, you can recommend saying, okay, I think the template could be larger. Right. Are they going to accept it? That depends on who you are working with.
My question was, I think the caller mentioned high level and low level. I'm sorry, but I guess probably know, and since I'm here, high level, low level, can you look at
high level, low level with respect to what?
The FFP for this is like a high level.
So the test plan, basically, whatever we are documenting is high level, because how are we going to test? What are the different methods? There is a separate concept called test scenarios. The test scenarios or test cases are low level, which will exactly document the step by step. I think once I discuss it, you will know what I mean by low level. Okay. All right. If nobody has questions, then I'll move on to the next topic, which is the test cases.
I have one question before we move. Are we ever going to do any SQL?
Yeah.
But today's like the 8th session. Isn't the next week the last session? So are we only going to do SQL?
Today is not the last session. We have one more class.
Right. So we're just going to do SQL during the last class?
I think I'll take care of the SQL today.
All right. And what platform do we have to download?
Sorry?
And we have to download SQL, I guess?
No. You don't have to download anything.
Okay.
I'll tell you how to practice it. There is a very, very simple way of doing it. I'll discuss it once I'm done with the test case.
Okay, and the assignment you're going to assign for today, for next week, and that's going to involve SQL and some of the testing methodologies?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we spoke about the test plan. We said, okay, as part of the planning, the testing lead identifies the whole set of process. Now, one of the most important milestone delivered as part of testing is the test cases or test scenarios. Okay. A simple example. Let's say I give this, we have a login page developed, okay, and I'm asking a QA to test this login page, okay. So he is spending around 1 day or 2 days, and after 2 days he comes back and he says, okay, I have tested everything. And I think it looks good, okay. Now the question is, what is the guarantee that this individual has tested everything? What does everything mean? How do I know that this individual has actually identified all the scenarios? Or how do I know that this individual has tested the application, this login module thoroughly? How?
Okay. If it cares for the first time, what's the next step he has to take onto it?
Agreed. See, he has to look at the requirement. I know what the requirements are, but what is the guarantee, the assurance that this individual has identified all the scenarios? I mean, there should be some criteria which clearly identifies that what I have tested. What I have the requirement, no doubt. But how do I know that this guy has tested thoroughly? Is the question.
You mean like
Does he document it?
No, do you mean like this?
Screenshots?
Do you mean like this? Different steps where you test this part of the whatever like right.
Okay.
And then you move on to test with the
okay. To make it simple, they have to have a plan. They have to have a plan of what they are testing, right? What functionality are they testing, and what are the different exhaustive list of scenarios that they have to test, right? And that information is documented in the test case. Okay. Now, to define what a test case is, right? A test case defines the set of steps that need to be followed while testing. I repeat, a test case defines the sequence or set of steps that need to be followed while testing the application. So what I'm doing here in a test case is, for a particular functionality, I'm actually identifying what are the different steps logically that has to be tested, and I'm documenting. And I'm making sure that I'm basically thoroughly running each and every scenario and testing it. See, if I've already documented and identified all the scenarios, all I have to do is, once I have the application in place, I just make sure that, I have tested everything and then, pass it or fail. Right?
These test cases are defined, written by the BA or the QA?
The question is, who documents the test cases? A business analyst will be responsible for documenting test cases. A QA is also responsible for documenting. Okay. So now the question is, when you are documenting test cases, what information would you capture in the test? Right? Attributes of a test case. I repeat. So when you are documenting a test case, what information would you normally capture in a test case? The test case ID, test case name, description or action, followed by the expected result, actual result, followed by the test result, defect. So when you are documenting, or every test case will have these set of attributes. Okay. So let's try to deep dive and try to understand what each of them means. Okay. To start with ID, for unique identification, every test case will have a unique identifier, which is an ID. Okay. Name. Every test case, just like a use case or requirement, every requirement or every test case will have a number and a name. Okay. Description or action. Description or action refers to the action performed by the user or the tester. So when I'm in the process of testing, what exactly am I going to do here? That information is documented under the description or action category. Right? Now for this particular action performed by the user, what is the expected result? Right? So I'm actually, let us say I'm opening a web page and I'm entering gmail.com. For this action, what should I expect? So the expected result is documented under the expected result category. Right? Now, what is the actual result? Actual result is the result that is actually being seen by the user. See, this is what I'm expecting, but what am I seeing is documented as the actual result. Okay? Now the test result, there are two outcomes. Either it is a pass or it is a failure. Right? Now when is it a pass? When expected result and actual result are same, then it is a pass. Right? And if they are not same, then it's a failure. This result is a failure. And if the test result is a failure, then you basically report a defect, right? And you will be using defect management tools to track the defects, and once you create a defect, you will actually put the respective defect number along with it. We discussed that yesterday, that we will have defect management tools, right? So you go ahead, once you identify the defect, you go up, create a defect, you get an ID, and you will basically map it for tracking purpose.
You will be simultaneously working with Jira and
yeah, obviously, right? See, the objective of this testing or executing this test case is basically to identify defect. The moment you find defect, you go to Jira or whatever defect management tool and you report it.
right? And comments. If you have to add any comments to any of the steps, then go ahead and add the comments. Yeah, anything. Any observations that you want to put. Okay. So now, yeah, go ahead. There could not be. There may be scenarios where both are same, different.
Yes. So
Test result. No, see, expected result is what I am expecting as based on the requirement, and actual result is what I am seeing. No. Test result can be passed or failed. You understand what I'm saying? Test result is either it is a success or failure. But I have to document what exactly am I seeing in the actual result. If it is same, that is fine. But if it is different, what is the actual result? I mean, I have to let them know, right? So, if for instance, if I'm entering gmail.com and if I'm not seeing the login page, I should tell them what am I seeing, right? So, that information is there documented in the actual result, and it's basically restricted as a failure.
It's like finalization of, it's like final word that you have to put in there to the test result. I mean, if it passed or failed.
Correct.
I mean, the actual result, if it is 100% as expected, you have tried as expected, or you have tried actual?
No, you can just say, as expected, yeah. Correct. It is company specific, but I think logically it makes sense to say whether it's a success or a failure. Yeah, Hina. Yeah, Hina, go ahead.
Subhas, I had a question, like, in this, like, what is the difference between the test cases and the defect management tool? Apparently, both actually gives me the defect, the same information, and
Hold on 1 second. So, your question is, what is the difference between test case and defect management?
Yeah.
Okay. Test case basically is defining the sequence of steps that you need to follow while testing, right? And the outcome of your testing is your defect, right? You find issues, and you basically have to manage them with your tools, defect management tools. The defect management, tracking each and every defect and ensuring that each and every defect is taken to a resolution.
But then again, here we are already noting down the defect. So do we have to go to the procedure?
Hold on 1 second. The defect is being reported in a defect management tool, and once we have a number that we get from the tools, we are going to map that number here.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is all for tracking purposes, that's all. Yeah, Rohel has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so let's say, for instance, our product is delivered and we went through the testing process and everything is good and fine until we deliver the product, and we went through the alpha beta testing as well, and from the selected users, and they all seem satisfied. But when we deliver the final product to the PM, say, and for some stupid reason, he said, oh, the background color is not up to my expectation. I don't like the background color, or I don't like the font displayed. Or he may come up with some tedious things. So in that situation, do we go back to the technology team, say, do this as requested?
Okay, so what his question is, now, when is the business coming up with these inputs? After the product is delivered, or?
Yeah, after the product is delivered. I can completely imagine business being totally absurd about these situations.
Okay, so what his question is, so we have basically implemented the solution, we have tested it, and we have, the users have accepted it, and finally it was delivered to the customer. So once it is delivered to the customers, if the business comes back and asks for a change, they say that, okay, they want the color change or font change, whatever change, right? All of them will be treated as change requests, SCR. So if they were asking for a change, first of all, the implementation is done based on what they asked. They have verified what they were getting. They have tested the application as part of UAT, and they have approved it. Right? Once they have approved it, we have delivered it to the customer. But after the delivery, if they are asking for changes, saying that okay, they don't like the colors or whatever, it means that they are asking for a change. Right? So all the changes have to be documented separately. That is called as CR, which is change request. I'm going to talk about it once I'm done with the test case. I'll show you how a test case, a change request document will look like. And of course, a change CR has to be approved. The business basically.
So if they are coming up with it, that means it's already approved. They would have
yeah, but you have to document it and you have to get it approved. Yeah, Rohil, would that answer your question? So technically what happens is if there are changes that are being asked for, then it has to go through the change management process, which I'm going to speak after I'm done with the test case.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, and And another actually question, I don't know if it's related. Let's say, for instance, when the business started, they were expecting at least 500 users to use a certain program. But their business expanded. By the time of deliverance, if they have expanded from 500 customers to 700 customers. So now their requirement is to, offer their service to 700 customers instead of 500. And that would actually, make the program not work because it was designed for 500 customers, not for 700. So is there like an incremental thing that a technology team can just go back and change? Or do they have to design the whole thing?
So that question is more at a performance level, architecture level. And I think when the business basically is coming up with the requirements, they always have the volume. They always project the volume. So that they think about the implementation for the next couple of years, saying that, okay, today we have 500, but the product that we are going to implement today has to take care of the 5,000 also. So I think the implementation basically definitely considers all those factors before it goes live.
Just to be on the safe side, can the BA?
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to be on the safe side, can the BA or the technology team can do a plus or minus of like say another N amounts of participants in case if the business go like, oh, or this has expanded more than expected.
So I think these questions are always populated by the architects and the developers during the development program, and they always ask these questions with respect to how many end users do we have, what is the projected volume that could increase, and what is the percentile increase, what is the process in which delay. I think all these are questions that the architects will come up with.
That performance would definitely be a lot not productive, I would say, or slower if you have N+1 users using a product which is designed for end users.
That's correct. But again, during the design, they design it in such a way that they try to understand the projection of the increase in the percentile of the end users, and they design the architecture and in the infrastructure in such a way that even if there is a volume of customers increasing, it will be taken care. So that's all part of the design process.
Okay. Thank you.
In the design process, if the design increase, that it can increase the volume without any effect on the personal or the budget, etc. They can do it, and then the project managers can say, here, this is product plus for you ask for A, it is A plus.
Coming back to our situation here. Now, first question, at what point in the software development life cycle would the testing team start documenting this test? Now, there are two aspects of testing. One is documenting the test case, right, versus executing the test case.
You would document right after you have the business requirements with the BA and the.
Hold on. Let me rephrase the question. There are two aspects with respect to any test case. One is documenting the test case, and the other is executing it. Okay. So, at what point in the SDLC would the testing team start documenting the test case? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, someone on the phone was saying something. Ganesh, right?
Yeah, the documenting would begin right after you get the BRDs and the FRDs situated and approved. The executing will begin once the developers start to actually do the program, and then it'll become cyclical. Like as more and more defects or as more and more test cases appear, you will add more and more information in that. So execution will happen later, and documenting will become cyclical with it.
I'm clear on the documenting part, but I'm not sure what you said about executing. We'll get there in a second. Sorry, what you said about documenting is correct. So documentation of test cases. Now, how is the testing team going to document test cases? Based on requirements, right? So as soon as the requirements are officially approved, signed off, the testing team will start documenting test cases. Okay. So having said that, I have these 8 attributes that I will capture for a test case. The question is, if you have to document a test case, what information from these 8 will you be able to document? So again, the question is, yeah, Rohil, go ahead. If you have to document, hold on one second. The question is, if you have to document a test case, from these 8 attributes that you have here, what information will you be able to document as part of your test case documenting?
1 through 5.
Sorry? 1 through 5?
1 through 5, yeah. I'm sorry, 1 through 4. 1 through 4. 1
yeah,
through
1
4.
through 4. 1 through 4, right? You can, based on the requirement, you can have a test case ID, the name, the description, and the expected result. All this information you can document based on the requirements.
This ID, this is generated when you start the test.
It's manual. You basically could assign numbers. Business requirements, when we documented, we assigned an ID. Right? Whoever is documenting the test case, they will assign the ID. Just in numbers for tracking. Yeah, tracking. That's correct. So now, as part of what is execution mean? Okay, so now, so in order to execute, execution is nothing but testing. Okay, so at what point would the testing team start the execution?
Once the product has been completed.
Correct. So once the development is complete, the testing team will go ahead and start executing the test case. Right? Now, as part of execution, they will start looking at the description, right? And let us say, the description tells them to perform an action. They'll go ahead and perform the action, and they will know what is the actual result. They will know what to expect, and they will see whether the actual result is meeting the expected result. If it is meeting, then they'll say yes, and they'll put the test result as pass. If it is not, then they'll put as fail and report the defect. Okay? Mm-hmm.
The question on the test case ID, when
that is not test case ID, that is a defect ID.
So that ID, what is it with the test case?
Absolutely. What you said is 100% correct. But if you see number 7, that's what I've documented.
So that's defect number.
Correct. So you execute a test case. At any point you find a defect, you go to the defect management tool, report the defect, you get an ID, you put it against number 7. Simple. Yeah, what you said is right. Yeah, logically what you said is correct. Okay. Any questions, folks? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a sample test case, and if you still have questions, then I think we can answer. This is a simple test case for you. Are you able to see this, folks? Okay. This is an Excel sheet. All right. So test case name, test case ID, and the purpose, criteria, description, or action. Okay. All right. So step is user opens the browser and enters Gmail. This is the step performed by the user. Expected result. System displays the login, Gmail login. Okay. Next. One second. Hold on. Okay. So you have the login page. We saw it. Fine. Next. Verify the following on the login page. And what should I expect? Google logo on the header, username text box, password text box, login button, disclaimer on the footer. So this is what I should expect on the Gmail login page. Right? Now next, once I see it, then enter valid username and password, click login. Verify if system is authenticating the credentials and navigates the user to the home. Now this is one test scenario or case. Okay. Now another scenario is user enters valid username and invalid password. Click log on. What happens? What is the expected result and what is happening? Right?
The expected results would be unable to verify entered information.
Yeah, unable to verify. Yeah, unable to verify or invalid credentials or something like that.
Yeah.
And once you start executing, you will basically fill the description. I mean the actual result. I'm sorry. So as part of the test case documentation, you will go and you will fill both these, right? The description and the expected result. And once you start the actual execution of the test case, then you will fill this actual description. Yeah. Now remember, a business analyst is also responsible for documenting test cases. It's very important. I mean, I have documented several test cases myself. It's very simple. You have seen this, how easy this is.
Quick question. Would it be easier to have the pass and fail on the same column? So like P/F. So if it's a P,
so
right P.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can just say test result and you can put pass fail.
Yeah. Because I thought it would be easier.
Yeah. This is just a standard, but it could be in different ways as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this kind of manual testing, but if the process goes right with the right information, should we check by putting in the wrong information also as we have the document?
Yeah.
All
yeah. So see, there are two aspects of testing, right? One is positive testing, one is negative testing, right? What is positive testing? Positive testing is now this scenario. What we tested here is positive testing. Right? We know that you have to, in order to log in, you have to enter a valid ID, valid password, and you are expecting the positive outcome. Right? Negative testing is basically you enter a valid ID, invalid password.
Just like that basic
Correct. Yeah, just like a basic flow alternative for that. Right? So negative testing is identifying all the negative scenarios that could fail and making sure that they are failed. Yes, of course. So all the scenarios should be documented in detail. This is only one scenario that I've documented here as an example. Yes.
That's right. The actual results, you could literally just copy the expected results.
Yeah, let's do that.
don't know if this is relevant, but I think in the Google platform, it validates your user ID first, and then it validates your password. So it kind of changes a little bit of.
That's correct. Yeah, this use case I've documented several years back. So I just realized Google has changed the whole process lately. But yeah, what you said is right. Yeah, Hina, go ahead.
Yeah. So in this scenario, there will be four cases, right? Like successful, unsuccessful, and then wrong user ID and the right user ID, right?
No, there are more than four.
No?
You want me to tell you what they are?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, you can basically enter an ID, okay, and leave the password blank and click login, right? You can leave both of them blank and click login. You can enter the password and leave the ID blank and leave login, click login. So there are several permutations and combinations that you could do. So you have to identify all of them, and all those cases have to be tested.
So it means that if it's not right, then it has to be wrong, right?
Correct. But you have to test whether whatever we want to, the error messages and the the response that we want the system to display. We want to make sure it's doing it correctly or not.
Okay.
See, all the negative scenarios have to be tested and make sure that it is covering all the negative scenarios as well. Yeah.
Okay. Is it two different methods for positive testing and negative, or is it all in one?
All in one.
It's really what people saying, right, of actual results. So does it depend on the company? Let's say you are doing the following, right, and it is the actual result. Like you're saying, do you have to copy and put it there, or can you just put a check off that if it is the actual result?
Whatever the standard says.
So it's the standard.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question. So with this Google example, let's say, for instance, we are like 5 years before, and we enter user ID and password on the same page on the Google email ID. Now, you just explained that 4 different cases you could actually get an error. So is there like a rule of thumb or like a formula we can actually use depending on the number of inputs we have? We should expect this many different ways of people making errors? Like, you know how you have in statistics, like combination, like...
I'm not sure if there is a formula for this, but you have to basically think logically and identify all the scenarios. And I don't think there's any formula.
Would it be like a 2 to the power of n being the number of entries which a user had to enter, or 2 to the power of n minus 1, or something like this? Just to give us a ballpark, like there should be this many different ways to a user can mess this up.
I'm not aware of any formulas as such, but I think you basically, what based on my experience, I haven't really heard about any formulas in the industry to identify the permutations. But again, if there is some mathematical calculations involved, yeah, why not? When you think it makes sense to, make the process easy, and then when there is numeric calculations or some calculating processes involved, yeah, why not? We can
infinite series.
Again, see, these formulas can change. Series? No, hold on. These formulas are, pretty much aligned with respect to the line of business. So there is no standard formula. So every business probably may come up with a standard formula based on what the scenarios are and what the criteria is. But there is no generic one standard across the industry.
Okay.
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 Yeah, go ahead.
So the interface from effort will come 90% a couple of other questions to create all the analysis there also that right or wrong. So this is all the
I didn't get some
user interface in FRD, we say the user does this happens, it does this happens. So that's basically all those steps which come here. Then maybe like 1 or 2 extra steps we want to do incorporate for testing. But all those steps have to be there in it.
Well, yeah, because see, as I said, the way you're documenting this is purely based on your requirements.
So you see 2 100% of user interface is a document here, then most of that will be covered. Maybe there is one or two typical points which you want to add.
Agreed.
Just haven't said, please.
No, they won't testing paste. The testing team will have their own format. They cannot cut and paste. The testing team will have their own format process. If they're copy pasting it, then we wouldn't need that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you put negative testing, right? Administration section like this.
We continue with the 4th step, right?
Right, and then dispatch the process does not. Right.
So here, step 4 will be enter valid username and invalid password. Click login. Verify if the system is displaying this message. Error message. Yeah, Rahul.
Sorry to bug you, but one more question. Let's say, for instance, a tester, when he is testing the product and he goes like, it is close to what the expected result is, but not quite, maybe a deviance of, say, 2% or 3% from the expected result, and he does, let's say he or she does describe that in the description. Now, isn't it being biased on the tester's perspective, whether he or she presses whether it's a pass or fail? Because let's say if the deviance is 2%, they're like, I don't care. 98% is pretty much matching, so I'm going to make it pass. Or the other hand is like, the other 2% is not.
No, I mean, irrespective of the percentage of deviation, even if there is a 0.1% deviation, it has to be reported and it has to be fixed.
So it would be under fail, like it's okay.
See, for instance,
even if the deviation is 1%.
The deviation is a minor thing. Let us say, based on what you're telling me, I could say that okay, there is a alignment issue on the screen, or there is an issue with the spelling on the screen. But still, it has to be reported. Yeah, you just cannot assume that okay, everything is fine. There is only one word which is not spelled, and then I cannot ignore it, right?
Okay.
Because see, what happens is it could be a simple spelling mistake, or it could be a simple statement that is not being displayed on the screen. But what if that is a disclaimer and somebody can sue the the organization, right?
Yeah. Would that be an extra defect? Like, that would be added to it. Like, let's say that verify login page, right? And expected result would be, the header, whatever. Just like, whether that defect that you're talking about, like maybe a spelling mistake. So would that result be a fail? And then the person, the tester, does he have a little box where he could explain what?
We have a comment section, right?
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So we started here, but if you see, go back to what I've documented here. We have a comment section.
Okay, so that's where we
right. You put the. Or if they want more detail, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be just a simple error of spelling mistake.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And that's why we also have a defect number. If they want more detail, they'll go back to the details of the defect. They will open the defect in the tracking tool, and they will look for more information. Okay. Yeah, Ali, go ahead. Ali, you have a question?
Yes, yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. Now, there is obviously SDLC and then there is STLC on the side as well. So when you said that after the requirements gathering and, then we start documenting the test plan. Now, we have other steps to follow as well. We have to, meet with the design team and move on that end too. So how do we prioritize? Do we just take care of the test plan first? Because obviously there is QA team, doing their activities, and then they need some input as well. So how do we go about that? Do we do that simultaneously at the same time?
Yeah, that is basically all about multitasking, right? So as a business analyst, once you have documented the requirements and then you have completed them, what else do you have in place? Nothing other than interacting with the business, interacting with the technology, interacting with the testing, documenting test case. All these are things that you will do, and all of them will go parallel. You just cannot say that, let me finish, take 1 week to work with the design, and then I'll talk to the testing team after 1 week. No, that's not going to work. You will be setting up parallel meetings, separate meetings, and you will, start aligning things accordingly. Everything is going parallel.
The actual testing obviously will begin once it's been coded. And
yeah, the execution of the testing, the test scenarios will begin after the development is complete. That's correct.
Right. Okay. Also, when we are doing the test plan, so we are also documenting the test cases in that as well.
Correct.
Okay. And who chooses the testing methods? Obviously, that's up to the testing team.
It's the testing team, the project manager, all together, and the business all together will discuss and decide the type or approach towards whether it's going to be manual or automation. Because there are a lot of factors that determine this, right? The budget. If they have to go automation, then they have to also see if they have the budget. These tools are very expensive, and also the resources are expensive. So all that, and also they have to. I mean, even if they're expensive, they also have to think logically. Can they actually get all this tested manually? Because there could be some situations where they cannot test it manually. So I think all the scenarios are discussed, and the project managers, the business, and the testing all together will come to an agreement on that.
Okay, and there could be both types of testings involved. Manual could be
in the
on,
same
the,
project,
on the functionality
in the same
level.
project,
And
yeah. So in the same project, 70–80% could be manual. Remaining 20–30% could be automation. Because
right.
that 20% probably it's not feasible for manual.
Okay, great. Now, there are some other terms as well, for example, user acceptance test plan, system test plan, integration test plan, unit test plan. All of these are part of the software test plan, or they're individuals, like individual
all this is part of your planning, test plan, right? So when you're planning your testing, you basically identify what are the methods that you're using for testing, and you basically go ahead and execute the respective testing method as part of your test plan.
Right. Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
For backing purposes, we use Excel.
You can use Excel if you have to document test. I'll give you some test cases to document. I'll post them on the blog for you, so you can download a template. Go online, download a template, and document your test case.
Right. Let's say on these questions, not I mean your instruction. You said like budget cut, right? So in that case, it's kind of simple regulatory or can't fight by. Why don't you, like, let's say, send it over to India, which is the chip, why go? I'm just curious, why they will pay us more? Not security?
No, hold on one second. I didn't get it. So your question is, why is the development or testing done from offshore?
Yes. No. Why don't we send it, right? They'll be part of the project and will be in India that we coordinate?
That is what is happening.
Okay.
So most of the testing right now, I would say at least 60–70% of the testing activities that are being done are driven from offshore.
Why not then the other parts? Let's say business analysis.
Business analysis is a client-facing job. Okay. If you have to gather requirements, you just cannot do it remotely. You have it's a client-facing job, and that's one reason all of us are very excited that we can still keep our jobs, right?
I can buy that house. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you were saying in terms of on the comment, if it's like a small problem, let's say like with your spelling, so can you add a screenshot?
Yeah. Well, you remember we spoke about the defect, and as part of the defect reporting, we also had an attribute which says screenshot. Right? Yeah, go ahead.
Do they mention the tools we'll be using? Because customers sometimes they specify and this tool and the tool's name, and you said they are expensive, so the cost of the project will vary.
That's correct. Yeah, the tools, the infrastructure, everything is basically clearly listed and detailed as part of the plan.
As DA, when you're discussing the requirement gathering process with the customer, you ask them what tools they want
probably may not have an answer for which tools to use. I think based on the requirements, based on the business process, the testing team will perform the analysis, the project manager will perform the analysis, and they together will come up with the decision and they will recommend it to the business. Business will not know, they are non-technical. They wouldn't know whether they would need automation or whether it would need manual, whether it can be done manual or not. So it's the testing team and the project manager will together analyze the process and what makes sense to the process, and then they will recommend the respective tools.
Okay. Based on their previous experience, say, Defect implementing the project based on Jira.
Jira is a defect manager.
Yeah.
So there are two things. One is the testing tool. Yeah. I think your question was on testing.
Yeah. So whatever the tool they take, they implement that.
Hold on. See, when your question, there are two aspects of it. One is technical side, one is non-technical. So I think your question is more towards the non-technical side, where a simple example that you just told was defect management process, right? So if in the previous scenarios, if they have used Jira or any product for managing stuff, they can always come back and say, if we have to manage defects, we will only do it through Jira.
Like the SAP Bank implemented a project using X tool.
When you say X tool, your technology?
Technology.
Okay.
Now, they came across certain problems, certain defects, with the tool. The internal BA or the SME or somebody who's at the top in the stakeholder business, he has a contact with somebody who's in the same at par with the bank of America. And they're talking and they say, oh, we implement this, we have these problems. They say, what do we do? This X. The Bank of America said, the guy said, oh, we buy and we have absolutely no problem. So they can say, that incorporate this tool in your.
They can recommend. They can propose based on what they know, but the final decision whether that is going to work out or not will be decided by the technology.
But if the they have to pay, then they have to.
No, it's not about just the budget, right? Whether for that particular business model, is this technology going to make sense? So I think those are feasibility and implementation analysis that technology team has to do before they say yes or no. Right?
When you said that EA has to test as well, it means that you are really redundant, right?
What do you mean by redundant?
Let's say they tested it in India, right?
Mm-hmm.
They send it over. Now you are reviewing it, basically, not testing.
You probably will also be responsible for retesting.
They will tell you.
Yes. I used to, when I was working in the project, especially all the showstopper and critical issues, I used to retest them, make sure that they are correct.
Okay. Those will be responsible. This is not a live stuff.
All right. Any questions so far, folks?
It was interesting.
All right. Let's take a quick 20-minute break. Let's come back at 11:30. Okay.
Hello? Hello? Okay.
Hello? Is everyone back? Damn. Okay.
No, he's not back yet.
Hi.
You're going to start in a minute, folks.
It's true. It's true. You're right.
Alright folks, so let's get started. So the next topic that we are going to talk about is change request. Alright, so the next topic that we are going to talk about is PR, which is change request form. So we spoke about the requirements, right? We said that as part of the requirement gathering, as a business analyst, you are responsible for identifying the requirements, documenting the requirements, and ensure that the requirements are officially reviewed and signed off by the business, right? So technically what happens is, once the requirements are officially signed off, right, all the changes that are being communicated from the business as part of the requirements will be documented separately. Okay, and that document is called as a change request form. I repeat, when you are working on the requirements and when you have documented requirements, and as soon as the requirements are officially signed up or approved, any changes to the requirement after the approval will always be documented separately in the form of a change request, which is a CR.
Any change that's not part of the
any deviation in the BRD. Yes. Okay. This is not in the BRD, will be documented. Now see, the change could be, there are two things. Change could be updating some requirements in which were already documented, or adding new features. Okay. Anything is a change, right? Either of them is a change. Sure. Okay. So technically, as soon as the requirements are reviewed and approved by the business, they are like as good as frozen. Okay. So now the question is, why should I document it separately? I mean, that is one of your questions. Right? So rather than documenting in the same BRD FRD, why should I again have a separate form? Why should I basically track it separately? Could be your question. No, the project is not finished. The project is development is in progress. But we are saying that any change that comes, don't update the BRD FRD directly. Document it in a separate form, which is called as a CR. But the question is, why do we do it? Yeah.
One of the reasons could be possible is, if at all, after we know that the change request form is built and everything that is implemented, and if you want to go back to the original, that original document is still there. We can refer to it and we can just go back. If this is not working, that should work. Because we knew that this was the initial part of PR.
That is also right, but yeah, that is also one of the words. But
if anything changes with that, the change request, then now it occurs to your time and the money that might be, required for this change. We might need more money or more time to complete the project.
So I think that is also one aspect. That is also one aspect. But let me get, go ahead. Anybody?
Well, I was going to say, like, the FRD could be very long. So if you say, oh guys, I changed this, if you're not going to go through the whole.
Yeah, I think that is what I was looking for. All right. Let's take a simple example. All right. So let's say you have documented a 100-page requirement document. Okay. Okay, 100-page requirement document, which has 20 requirements. This 100-page requirement document that you came up with has 20 requirements. Okay. Now you got the approval and you basically went ahead and you published it to the, to the technology team, the architecture team, design, testing, everybody, saying that okay, this is the document. Okay. Now let us say after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, now the business is coming back and they say that okay, we have some change. Okay. So for a minute, let us say we are going to update the same document, the 100-page document which we initially got the approval, right? So let us say out of those 20 requirements, 5 requirements have changed, I've updated, and I've added 2 more requirements. So technically now I have a new 110-page document which has the changes to the 5 requirements and now the two more requirements added. Okay. So now, do you think if I publish this new document which has 107 pages or 110 pages to the technology team, do you think they'll be really interested in looking at all the 100 pages again? Right? They don't want to look at all the, because they have already spent 2 weeks reviewing it from top to bottom, right? They don't want to again look at this 107, 10 or page document, and they don't want to again try to go back the whole, circle again, trying to figure out what has changed, what is new, what is old. Rather than that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pinpoint what is being changed, and I'm going to document which requirement is changing, what is adding in a separate document, so that it makes it easy for everybody to see what is updated and what is changed. And that documentation or that changes are captured in a CR or change request form. And as I said, every project, every customer will have their own format of a CR. This is one standard which I'm going to walk you through right now.
Basically, we did like testing, right?
Correct.
So when we have to do the regression testing, that means like upgrade. You add something like a feature. So you need these features on there, like let's say you gotta have like a change request form if you upgrade something.
Yeah.
You need to have that.
Yeah, you need to have it here. Yeah, when you are basically as part of the testing, we said that okay, we are going to make a change to the system, right? So that change is coming based on the CR, right?
So anything like you're gonna implement, you need to have this form, right?
Yeah, any change to the requirement. Yeah.
Going back to that testing, like test case, now that defect and the comments that we get, but CR would not imply that, right? We don't have, like we find defect,
Hold on. Let him answer.
Like this defect, whatever we got, now in order for them to fix that defect, we don't have to fill out a CR for that.
No.
Okay.
CR is only for change in the requirement. If you have to capture the changes, details of the changes, then only you will document the CR. Now, if you find a defect, you will basically report a defect in a defect management tool. You don't need a CR for fixing the defect. You report it, and assuming that it's a valid defect, it has to be fixed.
Subhash, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I get that the change request form comes from the business side after your BRD and FRD is approved, but what I wanted to know, you took the case example where you said five of them are modified and 2 of them are new. I get the new thing is fine, but in terms of the things that are modified or updated, aren't we already starting with the testing documentation? Now, if you're modifying something, wouldn't you have a new change request for the testing documentation again? Am I being clear, or am I confusing you?
No, I think you are right. So basically what happens is once you create a CR and send it to the design, development, testing, that is basically that document, the CR, is good enough for them to go and make changes accordingly. So for instance, based on the requirement change, the testing team may have to update their test case. So initially on the login page it said username. Now you want to display it as user ID. So change, right? So they will go back and they will update the test case accordingly.
So you're not going to do all views.
Correct?
Change request almost always comes from
the change request is always pretty much coming from this. Ganesh, any questions?
Yeah, so in that case, do I make a new test case again? Because I'm a BA, I have to make that test case. Sorry.
Okay. If it is a new requirement, yes, you will document a new test case. If it is the same requirement, if there is a change, then you will modify the test case. So
okay, perfect.
So for instance, here, let us say the username has been, there is a change and they said, no, it should not be username. Let's say it should be user ID. So what you do is you go to this test case and you change the expected result. That's all.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Got it? Okay.
To add a feature also will do the change. Right?
Correct. To add a feature or modify or whatever.
The business format like this really, or is that you verbally and document everything?
They'll tell you verbally and you document it. They're not documenting it for you.
I thought since they observe something,
they dictate. They dictate and you document.
That question that I had, in that PR, I'm looking at it says error correction. So what does that imply?
Where is it?
On the bottom side.
Oh, I'll get there. Give me a minute. No. Like type of change, we'll get there. Okay. So this is one standard format. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. The pretty simple. The project name, the ID, number, scope change number. Now here we are actually pointing to which requirement has been changed in the BRD or FRD, whatever. Right? So for instance, if there is a change in WWC BR 1.6. So this is what is this? This is the business requirement number that we have documented in the BRD. Yeah, whatever. So every business requirement will have an ID. Okay, and here if we are changing a particular requirement, I'm basically pointing out and saying that okay, this is the business requirement for which I am documenting the change. So when I start looking at it, I know what to expect. Okay, so this is a summary. So it says must match the change log entry because it should match the requirement number that you have documented in the actual BRD. Yeah.
On the implementation by, is that do you write business or do you write image?
Implementation by whoever is the technology, the manager, name of the manager, technical manager, technology project manager implementing it. Okay, change request detail. What type of change? What type of change is this? It could be a business change, right? The business is asking for a change. Or it could be a funding source plan change. Funding source plan change means initially they had 10 million, but now the budget is cut to 8 million. They cannot do everything. So that's the reason they are de-scoping some of the items, and that's the reason they have come up with changes. Right? Scope change. Their scope has changed. Their scope has increased or decreased. Right? Then schedule change. Initially they had 1 year to implement, but now they have only 9 months. So they are chopping down the scope. Right? That's the reason they will change. Error correction. So there is a defect reported, and that based on the defect, they realized that the requirements were not clear. You reported a defect, and there is no clarity on what exactly it's supposed to be. There is an error. There is an error, and we need to correct that error. And in order to correct that error in the system, we need a change. You are a tester, you have identified a defect. Okay? And that identifying that defect, realizing that okay, there are some more flaws which were not addressed as part of requirement. Right? Which were never realized. They will, oh, you know, this is something which we have addressed as part of requirement. Then you basically come up with a formula. Hold on. Folks, please, Hina, can you use your language? Yeah.
Like you said, the error. Would the tester also have clear that you could commit, or that
the tester, all the tester is going to say, this is the defect I found, please fix it. Right? Now, in the process of fixing the defect, if they find more issues which were not, more gaps which were not addressed as part of requirements, it's an issue, right? Okay. They're basically correcting the error.
Okay. The testers will come to us and let us know, and then it's our job to have PR and try to get it through the stakeholders. Got it.
The requirement has never been kept.
Okay, so something that we find it, or the tester finds it, so we have to approach the business.
Correct.
So the PR does not usually come from the business itself, but it could also come from the testing department and has to go through us.
Correct. So for instance, let us say, there was some error message. There is some error message that has to be displayed, and you did not document that error message details in the FRD. Yeah. So they're going to come back and ask you, okay, this is what we are seeing right now. So what is the actual requirement? Normally, what happens is, for this is minus, right? Mm-hmm. If you are in good terms with the QA and developers, you can just tell them that that's fine, just go and take it.
Yeah.
But if you are not in good terms, they'll start asking you PRs for every small.
Okay.
And if you are, because that means that you haven't done your job properly, right? If you haven't done the job.
That's why you
definitely have to be in good terms, with the developers. They can make things difficult for you.
Have a personal meeting later on.
All right. Yeah, somebody has questions? All right. Regulatory requirement. Regulatory requirement is the compliance. You know, if the application, let us say if there is a new state or federal law that comes, like for instance for the healthcare. Every organization, healthcare organizations are updating their systems to make sure that they are in compliance with the regulatory standards described by the state and federal law, right? So it could be a change because of that or any other change, right? So you document the corresponding changes here, and the priority, all this information is optional though. The priority, the benefits, impact. This financial impact schedule, all this is taken care by the project manager, so I wouldn't worry about it. Resource change, so all that is taken care by the and from the business side, somebody has to approve it. So the list of the individuals, the change management committee from the business side, who is responsible, and once the change request is opened, so normally what happens is when the business is requesting for a change request, you go ahead and you document, identify the change, and you open it. Then once you document it, you go for approval. Now, when a change request is initiated, I would say at least 2 people have to approve it. One is the business, they have to review what they want and they have to. The technology team also has to approve it. It's very important that the technical team approves it, because if they're not willing to take the change, then what's the point? So they have to approve, right? So it is your job as a TA to communicate with the technology team, let them know what the changes are and what to expect, what is the impact, and get the approval. And if they are not giving the approval, again, you have to understand what the challenge is. Again, you have to put business technology on the same page, make them come to an agreement. Okay. Now, as I said, if the business is not willing to do it, then they can also, if the technology is not willing to consume it, they'll say they can reject it. And then what happens? If it is rejected, then again, the rejection reason is known. If time is the constraint, then they may probably push it to the next release or on the following.
Where does that comment go to though? If it's rejected?
If it is rejected, then they'll basically remove this from the current release. Of course, this format doesn't have all that information here. Okay. But normally what happens is if it is rejected, then they will basically park this in the product backlog or whatever their pending items to do list. And whenever they can prioritize this, and they'll put it in the coming releases.
This right here, it has to be signed in person, like printed out, or does it's all through computerized?
These days, everything is email, electronic. Okay. I mean, all I need is an approval email from the manager.
Like, it says signature and stuff, so does it happen through the touchpad to sign it, or?
See, again, every industry has their own standard. So depending on the nature of the change, sometimes if it is mandatory, they'll have to sign it physically or electronically, whatever.
And then we have to upload it back to the
repository wherever you have to store, manage. But you have to keep tracking all these approval emails. Make sure that you're in compliance.
Okay. Yeah.
Rejected for the time being and put it in the backlog, and they decide to open it later. Mm-hmm. So open it, same ID, same everything, or just change the status from open from rejected to open, and have the same thing.
So we haven't really started talking about requirements traceability, so we need to. That will be next week. Okay. Any questions with respect to whatever we spoke on the CF so
far? Subhash, I have a question.
Yeah.
Could you go back to the error topic and I didn't get that clear. The error correction. Could you go over that again?
Okay. So the type of change basically is due to the error correction. See, what happens is there was some error they have found in the system. Okay. So there is already an existing application. Okay. And there is an error in the process. Okay. And we want to change or correct or fix the error, and that is the reason why we are coming up with this changes.
Okay.
Simple. The existing system basically has a flaw. or error, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And the purpose of the CR is basically to correct that errors in the system. It could be a flaw in the requirement, or maybe it could be an issue with the process that we have implemented. The goal is to fix that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I have a question, Subhash. Let's say, for instance, the business likes the product, and the program is working absolutely fine and everything, and then we officially close the project. But a couple of months, or let's say X amount of time down the road, they go like, oh, it's acting up, or it's not working as it's supposed to. And they come back to us and they say, can you take a look at it? Now, in that scenario,
hold on. So when you say, hold on, one second. So when you say it's not working as expected, is there a defect in the system, or are you saying that the system does not meet the expected behavior functionality, or is some features that they wanted are missing? What exactly is the concern?
It could be any number of things. It could be all of those, or it could be any one of those we just said.
Let's take one by one. Let's take one by one.
Okay.
So let's say if there is a defect, right? If there is a defect that they have identified, then the defect will be reported, right? And it will basically go through the change management process, the defect fixing process, which we discussed, right? It will go through the defect life cycle, and then the defect will be taken. That is one. Number two, let us say if they feel that they want more features, or some of the features have to be enhanced, then they come up with the CR, and then you basically interact with the technical team and then get it implemented. That is
so that would be like an expansion on existing or the project which was initially delivered.
I'm sorry,
okay.
I'm
now,
not able to hear you. Come again?
So that would be like an expansion on the existing project, or on the project which was delivered initially. Now, here comes my question. Here's the big question though. What about the funding?
What about the project?
What about funding? Like, are they going to pay us?
So the funding basically is again so once the business is asking for a change, as a BA you will first of all analyze the impact from a functionality perspective, and you will present it to the project manager, and the project manager will in turn talk to the technical team and talk to the business, and they will figure out what is the impact and how much money is required. I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
But technically what happens is the impact of these changes are analyzed, and they are communicated with the project manager. The project manager and the technical developers or leads, they will again sit together, and they will, and probably even the testing team will also come into it, because it has to be changed. There is a change in the application, it has to be tested. So they have to analyze the whole funding impact on the design, development, testing. Everything needs money, right? So all that impact is analyzed, and the project manager will basically give the numbers.
Now, you used the word analysis, and you said you analyze the effects and the defects or whatever is being reported by the business end, from the business end. How do you perform those analyses?
The first thing is when a business is asking for a change, you need to understand what exactly is changed. You already have an application in place, right? And you basically try to understand what is the as-is process. That is basically called as gap analysis, right? So what you do is you analyze the current process. What exactly is happening currently? Okay, what exactly are they asking for? And from what we have and from what we want to do, what is the gap?
Okay.
Right. So for instance,
so these are the 4 questions you need to answer in order to.
Correct. So let us say a registration form. There is a registration form in place currently, and on this form we are not documenting the legal status, marital status of the customer. Okay. So how do we want to capture this? They say that, okay, we need to, as part of the registration, we want to capture the marital status. Okay, this is a simple change. Okay, now you tell me from what perspective would you think about, when somebody is asking you to come up with, take care of this change? What are the different things that you would logically think about?
Oh, what was the situation again? I'm sorry.
So let us say if as part of the registration, the change that they're asking is, we want to capture the registration details, and one additional detail that we want is the marital status of the client, let us say. Okay, which is not being done in the Gmail registration, let us say. Okay, so how would you go about analyzing this? What kind of questions do you think you would ask, or you would need answers for to document this process?
How critical it is to have that information in the system. How important it is to the end user that they have to have their marital status.
Right. And what information would you capture? So when you are capturing this information on the screen, what screen do we have already in place? Right? Where exactly is the marital status being captured? How are we going to ask them to give their status? Are we going to show them a drop down to select the marital status, married or not?
Okay.
And also from a business perspective, when should we even populate? Because the marital status should be tied up to the age. So for instance, legally, if someone has to be married, let us say they have to be at least 21, right? So if the user is entering anything less than 21, do we even populate the marital status field? So,
absolutely not.
Right? So all this is logically you have to start thinking, and then you have to come up with the process analysis. Yeah, there is a lot more. Yeah, this is the simple thing, right? Simple thing, but there is a lot of impact. I mean, if the user is entering 18 years, why would you even prompt him to, select the marital status? By default, I would set it on that, right? Or not applicable. The question is not relevant, so don't even show him that option. So all these are analysis that you would do, and logically you would think, and then come up with the questions, and then have the gaps filled, have questions answered, and make sure that you get all the information on the here.
For example, when some kid does something, I say my daughter's birthday, right? I'm sure she's 5 years. Next question to ask is she married?
Yeah, that's why
after that, ask you if she's pregnant.
Yeah, right. So it means that whoever has implemented, they did not basically analyze the change,
right?
And they did not analyze the process properly.
Right? Maybe just maybe they are the first time business analyst or didn't have experience.
No, healthcare.gov was a flop show. It was not a flop show.
That was an example I was going to give before when you said about the volume of people, the users. So healthcare.gov is they had a problem where their website shut down because they had too many over volume of people accessing the website at the same time.
Correct. They did not have the infrastructure, and they did not basically estimate the volume properly.
True, and therefore the websites were going down, and that's the problem.
We think they don't get feedback, but still, it's been years.
Hey, so
the priority.
Quick question.
Okay. Yeah.
Going back to that marital status and whether there's an age restriction, but those age restrictions vary from state to state. So I think we should have the user.
Now, see, if you start thinking in this perspective, the change basically this one small change, but it has so much impact. Right now, yeah, what you said is right. Every state may have its own compliance. So you have to think through and then we have to logically put the requirements, frame the requirements properly.
Website, some places they say the people from California and blah 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 they are exempted from this.
Right.
Because the people.
That's true. Yeah, go ahead, Rohit. Yeah, I think I cut you off. Go ahead.
So when you talk about like state law and stuff like that, wouldn't a company have a designated legal suite that all that, or
yes.
are you supposed to?
No.
Correct.
All right. Any questions, folks? You are basically implementing the solution with respect to the compliance. So whenever you are documenting requirements, depending on the situation, you may also have to include compliance team while documenting the requirement. And then somebody will tell you who to meet and who to get the approval. So I won't worry about it. All right, so let's move on to the next important topic.
Prakash, just a quick question. Now, in terms of change requests, you said it's not an ideal situation for a BA to have, change requests.
No, Ali, I'm not able to hear you. If you could speak up.
Okay. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of change request, now change request is not, you said it's not ideal for a BA to have change request again and again coming in and all that. Now, if it's a change request, you see it and you feel, okay, if I can just talk to the one of the guys in the testing team or one of the guys in the development team, most probably, then I can get this done. I can include this change in the process. I understand that you still have to follow the procedure, but then, so how? What is the formal procedure? You have to notify your project manager of the change request.
Yes, so every change that the business is asking for, you always have to keep the project manager in the loop. You just cannot accept, whatever is coming, and you just cannot keep pushing it to the technology team. You have to basically put the topmost management, the project manager or the lead BS, whoever you're reporting to. You have to keep them in the loop and saying that, okay, this is the change they're asking for. But see, if it is a minor cosmetic changes, then then you probably may not want to bother them. But if there is a development change involved, then definitely you have to. But I think nevertheless, irrespective of the type of the change, I would always keep the project manager in the loop. Yeah, just speak to them in any change. Business is asking you, sending you an email asking for a change. You reply back, CC the project manager. Period.
Right.
Always.
Okay. Okay.
And
then you obviously
also remember,
yeah.
Whenever a change is, the business is coming for a change, never ever commit that we'll get it done. Never ever. Always say, I'll get back to you. If you are not sure about something, always, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
And even not only about the changes, right? If somebody is coming to you and then asking you to get a task done or asking you for an estimate, anything, any information, if you are not 100% sure, never open your mouth and give wrong information. Never ever do that. It doesn't hurt to say, I'll get back to you. And you have to get back to them. Do your research, give them the right information. Because if you just start talking nonsense, then you will not have credibility. Nobody will rely and then depend on you.
You'd rather be titled, I'll get back to you, guy.
Yeah. So I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you in an hour or 30 minutes or end of the day, whatever. Right, depending on the urgency of the situation.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions, folks? I think I'll basically wind up for the day today, because if I have to start data mapping, then I would need at least 1.5 hours. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up. But I think the next class, the last class, will be on Sunday for this batch. And Sunday, yeah. Saturday I have some other things that I have to take care of. So Saturday I will not be available. Saturday there won't be any class. So the last class will be on Sunday at 9 o'clock. And I think there are 2 topics left. One is data mapping, SQL, and requirements-based programming. I think these are the topics left, and I think we should be able to take care of them. And also, what I'll do is I'll give you some interview questions and answers. So what I also want you to do is, next Sunday when you're coming, go online and look for all the BA interview questions, business analyst interview questions, and prepare a set of questions, and you can take my interview. So you can basically ask any BA question, and I'll answer the question. So in this way, basically, you will know how to handle the interview questions. Okay.
Subhash, is it okay for me to? Yeah, Subhash, is it okay for me to call in about like 30 minutes or so to discuss about the ERD and FRD?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Anything else, folks? Okay. So the next class is on Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
So